Hey there, Dr. Mort Orman here, and today I want to continue our discussion about why and how it can be beneficial to us to think of our mind as being like an elevator that can go down several floors from the top level that we've been talking about this week. And I mentioned the top level is where our conscious beliefs and ideas reside, and then if you go down, get in your mental elevator, go down one level, you get down to the level of basic core philosophies, some of which may be conscious, we may be aware of, some of which may be unconscious. And then there's actually a third level, which is what I want to focus on today. And that's the level of deeper philosophies, which we can call presuppositions. And a presupposition is basically something that's so assumed to be true that we don't even question it. We just believe it's true. We don't need proof. We don't need evidence. We don't need convincing. It's just something that's either been passed on to us or we've concluded on our own. But it's just taken for granted. It's absolutely true. For example, the fact that the world exists is a presupposition we have. I mean, it's possible it doesn't exist. This is all fantasy. This is all an illusion. But anyhow, we have the presupposition that the world exists. We have a presupposition that we're alive. We have a presupposition that when we go to sleep tonight, we're going to wake up in the morning. And these are just basic things we accept to be true. They may or may not be true. And in many cases, some of our basic presuppositions are incorrect. And that's one of the reasons why we have stress in our lives. It's also one of the reasons why it's very difficult for people to change their minds and change their higher level beliefs and their middle level core philosophies, because both of those are tied to deeper level presuppositions. And if you can't really change one of those higher level beliefs and really believe it in your heart if you're still holding on at a very deeper level to a presupposition that's not consistent. It's inconsistent with a changed belief. So that's why it's very difficult for people. And that's also where you really have to go sometimes if you really want to reduce your stress. You have to get down to the presupposition level. What are your basic presuppositions about life? What are your presuppositions about stress? What are your presuppositions about relationships, about health, about stress and health? Which, by the way, a lot of people are confused about, and even a lot of scientists and physicians have faulty ideas about the relationship between stress and health in many, specific areas. Well, what are our basic presuppositions about ourselves, about many aspects of life? And you really have to grapple with those presuppositions. And if you find a presupposition down at that ground floor level, or that deeper level, that's faulty, and you change it, my God, the impact that it has on your life can be enormous. And all kinds of higher level thoughts and philosophies will start to change right away, because they'll no longer be consistent with your new way of understanding the world and life around you. So the level of presuppositions is so very, very powerful. And I talk about it a little in my third blog post this week that I wrote. So I did 3 blog posts on this topic of considering your mind as an elevator, and I also did this 5 video series where I talk about it some more. And then tomorrow I'm going to go into more detail. I'll have 2 opportunities to talk about presuppositions, so I'll go into more detail about them. But just let me tell you that the major advances that I've had in my life, the major breakthroughs that I've had in my life, and I've had several that I consider almost miraculous, they only occurred because I started off by changing a fundamental presupposition, and that led me to discover how to radically improve and change my life, where when I was trapped inside the old presupposition that I had, it wasn't even possible. I couldn't even see any possibility of achieving the things that I've achieved now that I have a different set of presuppositions. So if you want to read my third blog post this week, you'll see some examples of presuppositions. In particular, there's one I talk about that's very common, whether you see the world through a lens of scarcity or whether you see the world through a lens of abundance. And the truth is, most people today have been conditioned to see the world through a lens of scarcity. And that's their basic presupposition. It's not something they consciously believe or they decide to believe. It's just what's so. That's how the world is. I mean, things are scarce. There's not enough of the good things to go around. And if some people have them, other people aren't going to have them. And that's the kind of worldview that they have. Whereas there are other people who live in a world of abundance. they understand that they have a different presupposition about life. And I believe the abundance viewpoint is much more consistent with the reality about life, that life truly is abundant, that most of the good things that we want and enjoy are all around us and available to us anytime we want. Happiness, love, friendship, even money, is readily available if you know how to access these things. They're abundantly around. They're not scarce. They're not in short supply. It's not like gold, which has a limited amount to it, and maybe even, we haven't even discovered all that there is to discover. But in that sense, at any point in time, there's a limited quantity. Well, love, friendship, happiness, there's never a limited quantity of that. It's always available to us. And the same thing with money. There's really an unlimited supply of money, and any of us can have as much of it as we want once we alter our belief systems and get them in line properly and know how to produce money, access money, save money, manage money, invest money, all that kind of stuff. So that's just one example of how powerful changing a presupposition can be. And there are many, many other examples. I'll touch on a couple of them tomorrow. But I just want to highlight this analogy of going down the elevator, going down the levels in your mind from your conscious thoughts to your basic core philosophies to your presuppositions. And it may be difficult to change a high-level thought or even a mid-level basic philosophy about life until you figure out how to change the basic presuppositions that are holding all that structure in place. And once you do that, if you operate at the level of presuppositions and make changes there, oh my God, all that other stuff just crumbles without you having to worry about it. It just you're no longer believe the same things anymore or have the same philosophies anymore because they're no longer going to be consistent with the new way in which you understand and see the world. So I just want to give you that heads up. Tomorrow, like I say, I'll go into a little more detail about presuppositions, some of the presuppositions that we've all heard of that have made a major impact in the world in general. And this same thing can happen in our own personal lives as well. So talk to you again tomorrow for the final installment in this 5-part video series.